You feel it, don't you? That quiet heaviness that follows you even when everything looks fine on the outside. You wake up, you move, you smile, you function. People see you and think you're okay. But inside, there is a silence that doesn't comfort you. A silence that asks questions you don't know how to answer. You have food, you have clothes, you have people who know your name, yet your heart feels strangely hollow. Not broken, just empty. And the most confusing part is this: you can't explain why. You tell yourself you should be grateful, you tell yourself others have it worse, and still the emptiness remains. You scroll, you laugh, you distract yourself, you keep yourself busy so you don't have to sit alone with your thoughts, because when the noise stops, the feeling gets louder. And you wonder quietly, what is wrong with me? But listen carefully. This emptiness is not random. It is not meaningless. It is not a flaw in your personality. It is not proof that you are ungrateful or weak. It is something far deeper, something older than you, something Allah already warned you about. Because when the heart is disconnected from its source, it doesn't scream. It slowly goes numb. And a numb heart will search for life in places that only drain it further. Pleasure after pleasure, goal after goal, achievement after achievement, always chasing, never arriving. And here is the dangerous truth. The emptiness you feel is not harmless. It doesn't stay neutral. If it is not filled with remembrance, it will be filled with restlessness. If it is not guided by Allah, it will be pulled by the dunya. And what if this feeling you keep running from is actually a message you are meant to face? Because what if the emptiness you feel is not your weakness, but a warning from Allah? You don't fall into this emptiness overnight. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock loudly on the door of your heart. It slips in quietly, disguised as normal life, as being busy, as being ambitious, as being just tired. It begins when you start measuring your worth by what you achieve instead of who you are before Allah. When approval becomes more important than sincerity. When being seen matters more than being true. When your heart slowly learns to look outward for validation instead of upward for guidance. As a child, you were praised for results, for grades, for winning, for standing out. Rarely for patience, rarely for humility, rarely for a heart attached to Allah. And without realizing it, you learned a dangerous lesson. You learned how to perform, not how to purify. So you grow up chasing milestones. If I get this job, I'll be happy. If I earn more, I'll relax. If I find love, I'll feel complete. And for a moment, it works. For a moment, the emptiness quiets down, but only for a moment. Then the joy fades, the excitement dulls, and the heart asks again, is this all? At work, you succeed, but you feel anxious. In relationships, you are surrounded, but you feel alone. With wealth, you are comfortable, but never at peace. You laugh, but the laughter doesn't reach your chest. You rest, but the rest does not restore you. You tell yourself, this is adulthood, this is reality, this is just how life is. But deep down, something inside you knows this is not how the heart was designed to live. You don't notice when the heart begins to dry. You don't notice when remembrance becomes rushed, when salah becomes movement without presence, when dua becomes words without longing. You still pray, but the sweetness is gone. You still believe, but the closeness feels distant. And the most dangerous part is this: you don't panic, you adapt. You normalize the emptiness, you learn to live with it, and slowly, without realizing it, you become trapped in a cycle where the dunya feeds your body but starves your soul. Islam warned you about this long before screens, careers, and endless distractions. It warned you that hearts rust, that hearts harden, that hearts can become alive or dead while the body still walks the earth. And if this emptiness has a cause, then it must also have a cure. But to understand it, you must listen to those who walked this path before you. There was a man whose name echoed across the world of knowledge, a man people admired, quoted, and followed, Imam Al-Ghazali.
He had knowledge people dreamed of, status people envied, respect people chased their entire lives. Yet inside, his heart was restless. He stood teaching, but his soul was unsettled. He spoke about Allah, but felt distant from him. He had ilm, but lacked peace, and that terrified him more than ignorance ever could. Al-Ghazali did not see this as success, he saw it as a test. He did not see his influence as strength, he saw it as a danger, because he realized something most people never stop to question. You can speak about Allah while forgetting Allah. You can serve religion while feeding your ego. You can be praised by people while being empty before your Lord. He saw that his heart was slowly being polluted by love of status, by fear of losing respect, by attachment to how people saw him, and he understood that a heart cannot belong fully to Allah while being divided by the dunya. So he walked away, from fame, from applause, from everything that distracted his heart, not because the dunya was haram, but because his heart was becoming its slave. He understood what the Prophet Muhammad taught, that hearts rust just like iron, and only remembrance can polish them. Not knowledge alone, not achievement, not being admired. Al-Ghazali saw this not as weakness, but as a mercy. He saw this not as failure, but a wake-up call. And his story is not ancient history, it is your story. Different era, same heart, same struggle. Because today you too are surrounded by information but starving for transformation. You know more but feel less. You scroll endlessly but feel empty inside. And you think you need more motivation, more discipline, more success. But the truth is harder and simpler at the same time. Your heart is not hungry for more dunya, it is thirsty for Allah. And if this emptiness is ignored, it does not stay still, it grows. When you ignore the warning, sin becomes easier, not because you don't know better, but because the heart feels heavy, repentance feels delayed, reminders feel irritating. You justify what once made you uncomfortable. Every time you excuse a sin, something inside you tightens. Every time you delay turning back, another layer forms around the heart. Darkness doesn't arrive suddenly, it spreads slowly, slowly, until light feels unfamiliar. You start losing peace before you lose faith. You start losing humility before you lose belief. You rush your prayers, you forget death, you rely on yourself more than you rely on Allah. Families collapse not from lack of provision, but from lack of presence. Hearts grow distant not from arguments, but from spiritual neglect. Dua feels unanswered not because Allah does not hear, but because the heart no longer turns fully. And the most dangerous arrogance is not saying, "I don't need Allah." It is living as if you don't. But Allah, in His mercy, never leaves the door closed. He allows the emptiness to grow just enough so you will finally stop running from it. Because sometimes the pain is the invitation. And if there is destruction in ignoring the heart, there is also unimaginable freedom in healing it. The emptiness you feel is not a curse, it is a signal, a reminder that your heart was created for more than survival, more than pleasure, more than applause. It was created to remember Allah. The cure is not dramatic, it is not loud, it does not begin with changing the world, it begins with turning inward, with humility, with honesty. You return to Dhikr even when you feel nothing, especially when you feel nothing. You stand in Salah and slow down, not to be perfect, but to be present. You whisper Tawbah not because you are hopeless, but because you trust Allah's mercy more than your mistakes. You reduce the noise that feeds the ego. You make space for silence that heals, because there is a silence that destroys, and there is a silence that saves. You remember Allah daily, not as a ritual, but as a lifeline. And slowly, without fireworks, something changes. The heart softens, the anxiety loosens, the emptiness begins to fill with tranquility you cannot explain. You realize something powerful. The one who bows only to Allah never bows to anyone else. The one who empties the heart for Allah is never empty again. You don't become perfect, you become anchored. You don't escape the dunya, you stop being enslaved by it. Allah was never distant. You were just distracted. And consistency matters more than intensity. A little remembrance daily will do what motivation never could, because hearts do not heal overnight. They return gradually, lovingly, patiently. And now the question is no longer why you feel empty. The question is what you will do now that you understand it. Will you keep distracting yourself, or will you finally listen? If this reminder touched something inside you, don't ignore it. Reflect on it. Sit with it. Tell me in the comments what parts spoke to your heart. Share your struggle. You are not alone. And if you want more reminders like this, reminders that speak to the heart and not just the mind, subscribe to this channel.